I now call this meeting of the Coralville City Council to order on January 10th, 2023. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Knutson.
Here.
Gross.
Here.
Quinn.
Present.
Jones.
Here.
Goodrich.
Here.
All council members are present, as is the mayor, the city clerk, the city attorney, the city administrator, and other staff in the audience. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Gross.
Second.
Seconded by Jones. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. On to item number 4, community comments. This is a time for community members to speak to us about items that aren't on the agenda or items that are on the agenda and are not subject to a public hearing. Each speaker will have 5 minutes, and we do reserve the right to adjust both the individual comment time and the overall comment time based on the number of speakers or any accommodations a speaker might need. So I do believe we have someone that would like to speak to us tonight. Please introduce yourself.
Current chair for our Coralville Community Policing Advisory Board, and I'd like to provide our quarterly report. I always like doing this because when I write it down, I realize we've done more than I thought we were doing. So I've got a little bit to talk about. First of all, we welcomed Amy Gosnell to the board at our last meeting in November, which was very exciting because it was the first time since our original meeting a year and a half ago that we had a full board. So we were happy to have Amy join us, and she provided some great input already to the board. We looked at the initial activities the board was charged with when we started up, and we feel like we've accomplished all those now. And we have not been getting a lot of public input to the board, so we took a vote and decided that we were going to switch to doing a every other month meeting instead of every month, just because there wasn't enough to keep us a full agenda on a monthly basis. And with that, I think we would probably go with twice a year reporting to you. We'd have 2 quarters where we would have 1 meeting and we'd be reporting pretty much enough. I thought probably if we go every other month, we'll go to a twice a year type of reporting. And we always have the option to call a board meeting if we need to for something that might come up. Some of the board members have chosen, we've had the opportunity to participate in the Johnson County Community Police Academy, and I think we had 3 board members that had indicated interest, and we're going to apply for that. I haven't heard if they actually got in and they were going to continue to do that, but if we do, that will probably be 2 board meetings because that meets on Mondays, same time that the board would, that we would have less than a full board, but we should have, if the other board members are there, still have a quorum. We made some recommendations to Chief Crone about publishing policies that we reviewed the list of policies, and we made recommendations to him to publish 4 of them on the police webpage. Those 4 are use of force, standards of conduct, bias-based policing, and First Amendment assemblies. And he said he was going to work on it, and he indicated those were all things that could be made public, that they wouldn't be impacting police activities. Okay, we talked a little bit about one of the things that we're asked to do is to provide recommend training opportunities for the police department, and we have talked about this in the past with the police department being short of officers right now. It's really difficult to get that training, but it was brought up that, well, even though they might not be able to do that training right now, we should still make the recommendations. So we're actually going to start focusing on that. Amy had some ideas already that she brought in with us, so in future meetings we'll probably be looking at potential training opportunities that we would recommend, not necessarily that they have to be implemented, but it would be possible if things change with the police department. Another thing that we talked about, and I have brought this up before, that we were a little concerned that there is little public involvement with the board right now. It started out, we had people come to the board meetings and provide some input, and we haven't had anybody for a while. we want to make sure that that doesn't look to the community as the board being inactive. You know, if they don't see us doing anything or hear us doing anything, that they might consider, well, they're not really being very active as a board. So we talked about some things that we could do, and one of the things that we're going to consider in a future meeting is perhaps putting a summary like I'm doing here in the quarterly Coralville Connection, just so that people might be able to see it. They can see what we're doing if they read the minutes to the council meetings, but not everybody probably does that. But I think a lot of people do look at the Coralville Connection, so we thought that might be one opportunity to let people know that we still are here and we're still doing things. The biggest one we had in our November meeting was the 2021 traffic stop data. We got access to the actual PowerPoint that was presented to us, but there were a couple people that weren't at the presentation that had the opportunity to look through that, and then they had questions that unfortunately, you know, we couldn't answer because we couldn't remember. We had the same kinds of questions but couldn't remember. So we had a lot of discussion about how we can get a better understanding of that traffic data. One of the things that we are going to ask is that we get access to the actual PowerPoint before the presentation so we can be prepared with the questions that we might have. And the other thing is potentially maybe recording the presentation so that we can go back. There was a lot of information provided, and it was quite detailed in the analysis of it, and we just thought that if we could go back and hear what the presenter was saying, that we would better be able to understand it after the fact. So we tabled that discussion for future meetings, so we'll probably have more discussion in the March and April, May meetings, and then come back with a request maybe to do some of those things. And then the very last thing, in November, we actually did our election of new officers since we weren't having a December meeting, and we knew that there would be some board members not be able to be present in the coming meeting this month. So Kathy Hudson-Pillar was chosen to be the next chair, and she accepted that position. And then Guillermo Morales will be the vice chair, and he also accepted that position. That's all I have.
Fantastic. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all of your work. I know you have been busy. I love that statement you made where you said, yeah, I didn't realize how much we had actually gotten done. That's awesome.
It's good to see it on paper.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what it takes, right? Thank you very much for that overview and for all of your work. We really appreciate it. Okay. On to item number 5, parking fees. This is the third reading of an ordinance that would raise parking fines to $25, and if not paid in 30 days, the fine will increase by $5. And the current $10 parking fine has remained unchanged since at least 1999. Could I have the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 2022-1016, an ordinance amending parking fees, introduced for adoption, third and final consideration by Councilmember Knutson, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Nguyen. Any final comments on this item? All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gross.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Knutson.
Aye.
Ordinance passes its third and final consideration, all ayes. Item number 6, penalties for repeat offenders. This is the third reading of an ordinance that will set penalties for repeat offenders and allow the city to immediately abate nuisance properties if the same violation occurs again within 24 months. Could I have the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 2022-1017, an ordinance amending Chapter 50 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Coralville regarding setting standard penalties for repeat offenders, introduced for adoption, third and final consideration by Councilmember Gross, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Knutson. Questions or comments? All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Wynn.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Knutson.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Ordinance passes its third and final consideration, all ayes. Item number 7, Iowa River Landing Retail Lease. This item is for the owners of Blue Agave Mexican Restaurant. They wish to enter into a 10-year lease agreement with 2 5-year options to renew for the space at 211 East 9th Street, Suite 135 in the Iowa River Landing. This is the former La Vecina location. And the public hearing for this item will be on February 14th, 2023. Could I have the resolution, please?
Resolution of intent to dispose of an interest in real property and solicit alternate proposals for the leasing of 211 East 9th Street, Suite 135, Coralville, Iowa, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Wynn, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Jones. Questions or discussion on this item?
Yes, Kevin, could you please explain what is the triple net?
Oh, sorry,
Is-
I should have. Triple net means you pay all the real estate taxes, insurance, and CAM fees. So when they say, sometimes we have leases that are called gross leases where we just charge rent and then the owner pays those fees. But this one is, you get I think the first year was $19.50 a square foot. And then on top of that, they pay us those 3 categories each month on top of that rent. So in theory, they're paying all the space, all the costs of the lease there.
And the tenant choose the term of the lease, or we do?
No,
Or,
we give them the terms of the lease.
Oh, I
and
see.
They agree or, they can negotiate those items, but this is a negotiated lease with them.
and not all the lease there are triple net, correct?
Almost all of them. I'm not aware of
I-
any that are not.
I think the license agreements for 1 year used to be gross ones, but I'm not sure we actually have any of those left. I think the last couple that were on license agreements actually agreed to a longer term lease. So I think it's all triple net now.
Thank you for explaining.
So why is this per square foot rate significantly lower than several others we've looked at recently?
They do it all based on the size because this is a larger space. So some of the stores, especially if you're smaller, would be paid a higher per square foot basis.
Any other questions or comments on this item? All right, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Goodrich?
Aye.
Knutson?
Aye.
Gross?
Aye.
Wynn?
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item number 8, Coral Crossing 8th Edition. This item will approve several infrastructure needs in the Coral Crossing 8th Edition area. These infrastructure needs include paving, curb and gutter, water mains, sanitary sewer mains, stormwater mains, and several other items as well. Could I have that resolution, please?
Resolution accepting public improvements constructed on Coral Crossing 8th Edition, Coralville, Iowa, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Jones, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. Questions or comments?
What happens if we don't approve this?
Well, we have an agreement with them that said, once they put the improvements in like we asked them to, we were required to do this. Because it's a lien on their property, they can't sell any of their property until this is done, so in exchange
sue
for,
us.
this is just a formality to release these,
Yeah.
because they've gone through the punch list, engineering said everything is done. This one was part of 7 and 8, it probably should have been done when 7 was done, but this is just making sure that they can sell the lots in part 8.
So, First Avenue, when we had First Avenue contracted for that new street, I assume this was a similar process? No.
I'm not sure what First Avenue you're talking.
Well, we had issues with the stormwater
That's a,
drains.
This is a private.
yeah.
Oh, this is all private.
This was
So we're
pretty-
basically taking responsibility for this now.
Yeah. So when we accept these, they give us a bond for 5 years for concrete and 2 years for sanitary and water. So when we accept these, then the bond period starts. So if there's a defect, we can go back to tell the contractor to fix
Yeah.
it, or their bond company would have to fix it.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of starts that process, but it also allows them, it also gives us a leg to say they can't sell any lots until everything's done. So, because if you get a title opinion, there will always be an objection for that.
Right. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Sounds like good business to me.
Fantastic. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Goodrich.
Aye.
Knutson.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item number 9, limited authorization to perform. This item will give M.A. Mortensen Company limited authorization to acquire materials for the Hyatt Regency Coralville Hotel and Conference Center upgrade prior to finalization of an agreement for the entire project to ensure the project will proceed in a timely manner. This authorization is not to exceed $626,000. Could I have the resolution, please?
Resolution approving limited authorization to perform with M.A. Mortensen Company, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Nguyen. Questions or
The
comments?
full contract with Mortensen should be on the next agenda, so we'll be ready for that. And they do still intend to start construction late this month.
Do you know ballpark what that contract will be?
Boy, I don't, because
We've done part of it already.
we've done 2 separate parcels, so I would have to look that up.
Okay.
This is to renovate all the rooms, the $15 million project that we're supporting. And what part of the budget does this come out of then? Is this our TIF?
Yeah, well, no, this comes out, we'll be issuing bonds, which most of it will be paid for by revenues off of the hotel.
Okay.
And we do have a construction loan with West Bank, and then that needs to be converted into a permanent loan.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item number 10, West Land Use Central Trunk Sewer Phase 1 Tree Felling Project. The trees for the upcoming West Land Use Central Trunk Sewer Phase 1 project need to be dropped ahead of the April 1st Indiana BAT deadline that limits tree clearing. The public hearing on this will be January 24th, 2023. Could I have the resolution?
Resolution setting a public hearing on the plans, specifications, estimate of cost, and form of contract for the West Land Use Central Trunk Sewer Phase 1 Tree Felling Project, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Knutson, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gross. Questions or comments on this? Okay, can I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Gross.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Knutson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item number 11, Annual Urban Renewal Report. The City Council is required by House File 2640 to formally approve by motion the filing of an annual urban renewal report with the Iowa Department of Management. And does this need to be a voice vote or
You
just
can-
a roll call?
you can
roll
do a
call
voice
or
vote.
Okay, cool. All right. Could I have that motion, please?
Motion
moved.
approving and accepting the annual urban renewal report fiscal year 2022, introduced for adoption by.
Councilmember Gross?
A second.
Can we do that already?
Yes.
Sure.
Seconded by Nguyen. Any questions about this? Okay.
Well, I guess I do. I was trying to figure out how we're doing relative to last year, previous years. It's not obvious to me when I look at this report. It's like 80 pages long.
The report is really,
Not for that.
it's not meant, it's not something you can read just page by page. It goes through each of the urban renewal areas, shows what debt is, shows what projects are in there. It's hard to read, and then you only have to add in, if I remember correctly, you only have to add in new debt, so you don't go back and look at each year and say old debt, because the new debt's still on there, the new debt's still on there. So it's hard to, I think Tim probably will come.
We'll be doing a full review of those in early February.
Perfect.
Our financial advisor will come and look at all future years and then where we're at in comparison. And that's that report that he does it each year for us, so that if you keep them, you can go back and look, but there's also information in each one that'll give you both a past and future.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so we had a motion and we had a second. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is approved unanimously. Item number 12, Utility Resilience BRIC Grant. This item has two parts. The first is a resolution that would approve a 20% local match from the city that is expected to be $3,920,000 as required for FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant. This is a larger grant that is $13,720,000, and this will help relocate power lines and communication lines from overhead in backyards to underground in front yards in the Mid-American service area. And we have our Assistant City Administrator, Ellen Hobble, here with us. Would you like to share some information?
I would just like to provide a brief summary of this project. We've been working on it for a while, as you know, but we do have some important deadlines coming up and information for people going forward, so I wanted to share that. As we've talked about, and as you noted, we are applying for federal and state grant funding to relocate existing overhead power and communication lines to underground in the Mid-American Energy Service Area, and that's roughly south of Interstate 80 here in Coralville. There are a few areas that pop up north of there, but generally south of Interstate 80. And so, as we've experienced following a storm event that causes damage to power lines, the utility companies have to navigate through the streets and yards, and they might be covered with ice or tree debris, and that delays repairs and restoration of service. The damage can be compounded by the loss of power, and residents and businesses have to manage without heat or air conditioning. They may lose perishable foods, and most importantly, their medical equipment would not be working if powered by electricity. From 1996 to 2010, there were 23 high wind events recorded in Johnson County with wind speeds of over 44 miles per hour. And of course, the August 2020 derecho caused power outages that went unrepaired for multiple days as repair crews struggled to navigate through streets covered with debris, narrow side yards, and fenced or landscaped backyards to reach power lines in rear yards. So as we've seen, in many cities, the power lines are in front yards. Here in Coralville, they are in the backyards. So you might have swing sets and bushes and all kinds of things, retaining walls, prohibiting you from getting to the backyard, and that just really slows things down. And then in the winter, you've also got ice and snow that you're dealing with to try to get to that backyard. So by relocating the lines to the front yards and below ground, the lines would be less vulnerable to severe storms, to winter storms and tornadoes, and utility reliability would be improved for over 9,000 Coralville residents. We're seeking these funds through the grant through FEMA with assistance from Iowa Homeland Security. And if successful, the grant and the city's contribution is expected to cover 100% of construction costs. The application is currently under development. We did receive funding previously to help us with developing the application. And the project as a whole is $19.5 million. Mid-American Energy is supportive of this project, and they've been our partner from the beginning, and they have indicated a willingness to share in the city's portion and match. We have not arrived at a final dollar amount yet. We are having a public information meeting at 5:15, 1 week from tonight here in City Hall, and a mailer in a postcard form has gone to all households that would be served by the project, and that went out yesterday. And if funded, we'll certainly have more meetings and more information available.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that overview. Could I have the resolution, please?
Resolution authorizing a local match for FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gross, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. I'll just start by saying thank you for all of your work on this. I think that it is incredibly important. You know, we also have a lot of people that are, you know, working from home, and it's just really important that that service has minimal interruptions anytime we have a severe weather event. I would really encourage people to come to that information session next week. I'm glad to see that, you know, we have that scheduled, and so it'll be a great opportunity for residents to come and learn more. Do we have an idea of how soon this work could start?
Yep, so if, the application will go in later this month, and then we would receive notification of whether we received funding in about November. Then it would take us a little time to work out the, just more fully develop the project. But we would anticipate construction in the summer of '24 through the fall of '26. And hopefully we could compress that a little bit and get finished sooner than fall of '26. But we wanted to allow ourselves enough time in that window, not knowing what weather conditions would be and what we might encounter.
And so later in the process is when we will figure out the exact geographic spots where the work is going to begin, and then I'm assuming we'll map out a plan.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
We would take on, small portions at a time so that we didn't get ahead of ourselves, and anything that was dug up would be restored to its prior condition, and we would be notifying people as there were outages. And the only outages we would really anticipate with this would be when we do the switchover. So that can be pretty much planned and scheduled ahead of time, and people can be notified, but it should be pretty brief.
Great.
And what time is the meeting, Ellen? What time is the-
5:15
5:15.
next Tuesday, a week
Thank
from
you.
tonight.
Any other questions?
Well, how are we gonna pay for this? 3.9 is still a lot of money. And do we have a ballpark for what Mid-American's they're gonna go halvesies, or?
We're still working on that. It's just something that we haven't gotten quite that far on. We're happy that, the grant is for as much as it is. And initially, when we started this project, we talked about just doing a really limited area, about 10 blocks.
Right.
From 6th to 10th Avenue. And so, but we've been encouraged to just, do the whole city, the whole service area for Mid-American, which I think is really promising. But yeah, it does put more of our share more at the front end of the project. But that's something we're still working out.
I think we would have to bond our portion of that and pay it back over years.
Okay.
I think one of the things that Ellen and I looked at is so included in this, in all Mid-American, is the area of Bryan and Bessie Hove, that's south of Highway 6, west of Walgreens. That neighborhood, just to take care of the work in that neighborhood, was gonna be over $3 million. And so somebody, whether it's the city and the developer or whoever, was gonna have to figure out how to cover just that small piece, was gonna be well over $3 million. So if you look at it from that standpoint, that same dollar amount would take care of all of Mid-American in Coralville. I think that's where we thought that this was a really beneficial grant.
I think I follow that. So we would take out long-term bonds to pay for this. And that's part of a TIF, though, so could that be paid back?
Parts of the areas are, not all of them.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, all of the neighborhoods would not be. And so we would have to look at that with our bond counsel as to how and what could be covered from that. One of the other things, once they get this figured out, if we were to get the grant, there are some of the neighborhoods that it would be beneficial to also redo the streets and sidewalks at the same time. 8th Avenue, I think Scott, 9th Avenue, were 8th and 9th were two of the primary ones that we looked at. There's some sewer issues there, water manhole issues. So it would seem, if we can figure out the cost, that at one time you might want to redo a whole block or blocks in a neighborhood so that everything gets taken care of at one time instead of coming back in 5 years and then tearing up the neighborhood again.
That
It
would
would
be
also
fantastic.
help with the utility undergrounding if you were looking at that as well.
So approving this now, do we lose any leverage we have with Mid-American? They seem like they are one of the primary beneficiaries of this through reduced maintenance of the lines.
They'll have reduced maintenance and they'll obviously have a brand-new system. I think Mid-American has been very good to work with us on this whole process, and so I think that will not
Not
be
be an issue.
detrimental to that. In fact, for example, on Fifth Street, with the Fifth Street project, they did not spend the money to replace the overhead because they knew we wanted to reconstruct that. And so they are not charging us, unlike in most areas, we would have to pay to underground that. They are doing that at their cost because the equipment needed to be replaced. So that's another example where they, at their own discretion, were willing to work with us. And that's a significant amount of money.
That's good to hear.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Wynn,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Goodrich, Knutson,
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. We have a second item here. This resolution will allow the Deputy City Administrator to submit the application and designate her as the city's representative to execute any and all documentation on behalf of the city for this grant. Could I have that resolution, please?
Resolution authorizing the submission of an application and designating the Deputy City Administrator as the city's designated representative for FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant. Introduced for adoption by Councilmember Wynn, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Jones. Questions or comments?
I'd just like to comment, Mayor, that I'd just like to thank both Ellen and Scott Larson, our city engineer, for working on this. This has not been done with these funds before, and so they are working on a program that would be a pilot, if you will, and a first case scenario. And so the state has been very good to work with on this, but there has been a lot of effort gone into this just to get to this point. And so whether we get the grant or not, which I hope we do, there's been a lot of good effort put into this whole process.
Fantastic, I agree. Really appreciate all of the work. All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Goodrich, Knutson,
Aye.
Gross,
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item number 13, I would consider a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Mayor, I would like council to consider a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, A to Z.
Moved by Huynh, seconded by,
Gross. Or second.
seconded by Gross. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Goodrich. Aye. Knutson.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved, all ayes. Item 14, City Administrator's Report.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Item 15, Mayor's Report. I have a couple of quick things. First thing I wanted to mention is that next Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and there will be a Unity March beginning at 9:45 p.m. at Eastdale Plaza in Iowa City. The march will end at Mercer Park, and there will be a program that will run from 10 a.m. to noon at
So
Mercer.
the march is AM, right?
Did I say a.m.?
You said
said
PM.
p.m.? I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay.
No, that would be that'd be like something completely different. That would be like a really groovy party or something. No, I apologize. 9:45 a.m. 9:45 a.m. And yes, program from 10 to noon. There will be lunch that is served, and then there will also be service projects happening concurrently. So this is, I love attending this event. It's a lot of fun. A great way to spend a day of service honoring the life and legacy of Dr. King. I also wanted to mention that Winterfest is coming up. That'll be Sunday, January 21st, 1 to 4 p.m. in the Iowa River Landing. And boy, is there a lot of really fun stuff planned for this event. There's going to be an eagle watch, lots of really cool outdoor activities, snowshoeing. There'll be an ice industry demonstration, snow painting, carriage rides. It's just going to be a lot of fun, and theater games, a lot of really fun stuff. So I would just encourage everyone to attend that event, and just want to thank the Winterfest committee for all of their work. And I know that there's going to be some events that coincide with our 150th celebration happening on that afternoon as well. So really encourage everyone to attend. And that is all I have this evening. City Attorney's report.
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. And committee and council members report. We'll start down at this end with Councilmember Knutson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to comment on the joint entities meeting. Most of us attended last night. Good discussion about local option sales tax. Just want to echo my support for that moving forward. Specific presentations by the Iowa City Community School District to implement wraparound pre-K for all the students in the district. Significant portion, but certainly far from all of it, would go towards that important endeavor, and certainly support that. But we would have to have other opportunities to invest, and I just wanted to mention, with our troubles with transportation, I wouldn't want to list that on our application. As you all know, sustainability, opportunities to improve solar in the city, just improve our buildings and what have you. I would certainly support that. Geothermal would be another recycling center that we are all tracking, if we have this language. And anything educational, I think, and of course, affordable housing. Those are all the things that I would like to see listed on a ballot were it to come to fruition next fall. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Fabulous, thank you. Councilmember Gross.
Good, thank you. A couple things. First of all, I guess, and I can't remember the answer to this, and I know I've asked a couple of years ago, but what's the reason that we don't have Dr. King Day off as a city?
We follow through with our union
His contract, I thought it was
contracts.
contract.
Yeah.
So what's preventing us just from adding a day?
I guess there's nothing if we wanted to add. There would be an expense to it, just like the other holidays, because of the number of days.
Days
and
up,
then we'd
right.
have to pay overtime for those
Yeah.
departments. that
Or I guess
cover.
I'd like to propose, to remove Columbus Day as a day off and have MLK Day.
We
as
don't
one.
have Columbus
We don't? I
Day.
thought we did.
We have presidents?
We have
Yeah,
presidents and we have,
President's
okay.
Day, but we don't have Columbus Day.
Okay. Do you know what North Liberty does for MLK Day?
I do not know.
Okay, I'd just be curious, like, what the other towns around, or if we're not doing that, then I would really hope that we could really try to do some really robust programming on that day, so it's not just a regular day. And I just think it's important to commemorate that somehow. Second thing, I just want to make a public discussion about, as a CVB rep for the council, there was, the arena hosted on Sunday a quadruple header between West and City basketball, and there were some things floating around on social media kind of unfairly blaming the arena for the way a ticket was printed that made it look like there was a premium focus put on the boys' game over the girls' game. And as the dad of 3 female athletes, I can say clearly that's the way the program printed the ticket. There was no intention to diminish women's sports, and if anything, I think the arena has been a leader of women's sports, whether it's women's wrestling or hosting the volleyball tournament or anything else. So I think there's been some really unfair criticism, and it's a perfect example where people aim and then they shoot, or they shoot and then they aim. People were all upset, thought it was important, and it's like, no, it was just how it was printed. Had the times been reversed, the boys' games would have been printed smaller than the girls' games. So it's really important that people realize that. And lastly, I just do want to have a discussion. I think some of us did get reached out about First Avenue Extension speed. I know there was a discussion at a previous work session, but I drove it Saturday night. And 55 is too fast. It's just too fast for that road, for the curves. You know, I think about the number of Coralville kids that are driving that road to Liberty High School, the school they go to. You know, a lot of programs have early AM practice, and I guess based on the discussions we're having, I get there's some things with the county, but I think we need to really move quickly on that and reduce that speed. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. And I just want to thank you for the comments about the tickets. I had actually seen that circulating as well, and I think another thing to point out is that the city does not print those tickets. Right. And I would also point out, to your point, you know, we announced that that wrestling for girls would be sanctioned in the arena, in that space. And we just hosted women's the World Cup where women's teams competed. So thank you for clearing that up. I really appreciate that. All right, Councilmember Huynh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few things tonight. So the new pantry is slated to open next Saturday, January 21st. I just wanted to let the general public know so that they can plan. Our new address will be at 804 13th Avenue. So it's just up the road from Northwest Junior High and the rec center, right on the bus line. If you have trouble finding them, just come to the old pantry and we will point you to the right direction. So next Saturday, January 21st, 10:30 to 1 p.m. And then Monday is MLK Day, and as the mayor mentioned, the celebration that takes place at Mercer Park in Iowa City. We also have something in Coralville. You know, the Children's Museum in Coralville is hosting an MLK Day, and it's free admission to all. It's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and if you are looking for a day to do service, you have the opportunity to assemble kit that will then be donated to community partners that get to family who are in need of those kits. They will also collect donation that is benefiting the people who utilize the services at the food pantry. And again, that is on Monday, January 16, to celebrate MLK Day, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Iowa Children's Museum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Jones.
Most of my items have been talked about, so I won't repeat them. I do want to just mention, and I appreciate Mitch and you, Mayor, mentioning the City West basketball situation, but very enjoyable event. And I hope that the school district is able to schedule events like that at the arena going forward periodically, because it's just a wonderful atmosphere, a wonderful venue, and it's great to see our young athletes be able to play in a venue like that.
Thank you. And
Very
finally,
good. That's all I have. Thanks.
Can you talk a little? Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the 150th? Are there any 150th specific activities for Winterfest?
Yes, we are I will be helping man the ice, seeing how ice was not made on the river, but what they did with that. There was an ice factory there. A big goal this year is to get people outside. And so along the river, viewing the eagles and then the ice thing, you mentioned all of them, you know, different activities. Also, some of the stores will be having things too. So it'll be all along the river up to the IRL. And even in the arena, there's activities. So.
You won't be on the ice actually cutting ice, though, will you, Lori?
I'm not sure. All I know is
Stay
you can
tuned.
volunteer. So there's a volunteer thing. The rec center is doing a wonderful job of hosting this, and so, you know, contact them and you can volunteer and come on the ice with me. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
I haven't been asked to wear the eagle costume this year, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm available.
The Eagles show up in the morning, so that is scheduled for the morning, which
Okay.
makes sense.
I'm
So,
available.
yeah, dress warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
MLK thing again. You know, years ago, myself and Allison started a pretty cool ceremony where we would read the speech, but we had to stop that because of copyright. So I do want to say that we used to do something as a city that was really, a great event that the community loved, but we were violating the copyright, so we had to stop. So I do want to just put that out there, that it's not that we haven't done anything, we have done something, but since we're not able to do that, that's where I want us to put our brains together and figure out something new that we can do.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I was actually
You bet.
asked about, are we doing that reading? And I had to explain it was the copyright issue. So thank you for mentioning that. Okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Nguyen, seconded by
Second.
Goodrich. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.